Tuesday evening, we found out Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree off. Now, we don't really know what happened to Jamal. I haven't seen anything. Khalil Roundtree himself doesn't seem to know what happened to Jamal Hill. I saw him do an interview, and he was just like, I was told the fight was off, and I was told they couldn't find a replacement. All right. And so they called upon Carlos Prates, who was supposed to fight Jeff Neal in Miami, UFC 314. Neal withdraws. They look for a replacement. Nothing materializing. They push him to Kansas City. They call upon Ian Machado Garry. Second time this guy steps up on short notice. Main event. Say what you will about him. Massive cojones. Afterwards, he went online and cut a pretty good promo. I got to give Ian some credit. A lot of credit for a lot of things. Cut a great promo. Here it is.
Right, it's official. You've got a new main event, Kansas City, Missouri, me versus Carlos Prates, April 26th. I'm excited. Why? The UFC go, we need someone. Who do we need? Who do we call? You call me. Why? Because I'm a real fighter who wants to fight the best in the world. I'm going to show everybody how good I am. Carlos Prates is awesome, but this is my world. I love to fight. There's nothing more I love in this world than fighting. Missouri, Kansas City, let's go. Ireland, get your tickets, get your flights. Brazil, get your tickets, get your flights. And Brazil, desculpa, vocês têm dois brasileiros nessa luta. Vamos lá. Prates, vi você abril 26.
By the way, when he starts speaking in Portuguese, it's great. The Prates, all that stuff. Then in that same post, or a second or so later, we find out the main event and co-main event for UFC 315, June 7th, Newark, Prudential Center, The Rock, Merab Dvalishvili versus Suga Sean O'Malley. Main event, bantamweight title, co-main. Finally, we get Juliana Pena, the Venezuelan vixen, friend of the show. We still love you, Juliana. Going up against Kayla Harrison, 135-pound women's title. Pizzi, Ian Machado Garry, you've been covering him a long time. Somewhat polarizing in your country. One of your own, obviously living in Brazil, London, this and that. This man is stepping up again. And here he is, 24 days away from potentially being on a 2-fight losing streak because he took 2 fights on very short notice against 2 killers at 170 pounds. Are you surprised after what happened in the Shavkat fight and, of course, him being upset that he didn't get the call to fight for the belt? Are you surprised that he took this fight?
In terms of Ian as the athlete, absolutely not. He's a competitive beast. This guy is so competitive. I can't underline, he's might be one of the most competitive people I've ever met in the sport, and there is a lot of competitive people in this. Like when he was a younger guy, if you were even talking about another fighter, he'd be like, what? I'm better than him at this. He constantly wants to one-up everyone, and that's the best kind of mindset you can have in this game. I'm sure he's seeing all the love that Prates is getting from the community. He is one of those beloved fighters at the moment. He is putting on scintillating performances. But what I'll also say is, to the second part of your question, I am surprised, given that he felt left out of the title situation, and there were situations where he's like, I don't want to fight back. Really, back to the Highlander analogy, this is a huge, huge opportunity for Prates, because Ian Garry is a guy who is considered right on the cusp of that title conversation. I know his last fight was a defeat to Shavkat, but I would say if he had just bided his time, he could probably get matched with one of the senior members of that title conversation and maybe have an easier opportunity given the momentum that Prates has. But again, just speaks to how competitive he is. I personally like the fight for Ian Garry. I think his IQ is incredibly underrated. This is a guy that we saw strike his way into the UFC, big knockout power. And then when we've seen now, when he needs it, he goes back to his grappling. We saw it against MVP. We've seen it against Jeff Neal. I would say that Prates is a very similar matchup in that he knows where the threat is coming from against Prates. It is a striker, a guy who's trying to take your head off, and he has done very well in that kind of matchup before.
If Ian wins, should he be next for the belt? Should he get the winner of Bilal versus JDM?
It's tough because there is a logjam in this division. There are so many guys who are entering the fray. What happens to Shavkat then? We're only talking about Sean Brady. I feel as though it's a tremendous risk that he's taken because he's coming off that loss, and that's why I respect it so much. I think he will have a great argument to be the next guy for the title, and depending on Brady and Shavkat's situation, he might be. I don't think it immediately puts him to the top of the pile, but I do think that putting on an exciting performance against Prates would nearly be a golden ticket for him, Ariel, you know? I do fear that the matchup that he will have to, the style fight that he'll have to employ against Prates will not be the most exciting. I think he needs to grind this guy out. This is a guy who likes to put people away early. Ian will be very conscious of that. He has many tools in his belt, and I think we're going to see him use them on fight night.
I got to tell you, a win over Carlos Prates would be very impressive. But when you consider the fact that, look, Sean Brady, as you just said, just beat Leon Edwards and beat him bad and beat him convincingly and stopped him, the first guy to stop him, submitted him. And then you consider, okay, and I know it doesn't really work out this way because Prates has so much hype and momentum behind him. Prates' most, I guess, celebrated win would be the win over Neil Magny. Prior to that, Li Jingliang. A win over Sean Brady, a win over Leon Edwards for Sean Brady is a much more significant win, if you will. And so I'm really curious to see how they break this down, because it could end up being, and this is tough, Ian wins this fight. They honor their word to Shavkat. Shavkat fights the winner of the May 10th fight, and then we're really getting Ian versus Sean Brady, number one contender fight. I could see that happening. Or Carlos versus Sean Brady. Basically, is this fight going to determine who Sean Brady fights next? And then and can we get some clarity? Is Shavkat actually going to be next? All big questions, because there's a chance Shavkat's going to be out, and then maybe the winner of this fight leapfrogs, or maybe it's Sean that leapfrogs, and then this guy has to fight Shavkat again. Who the hell knows? But it's a big time fight.
This is a big fight, but it does feel like a risk, an unnecessary risk, if I'm being honest. Like,
Why?
Because I think Ian Machado Garry could have gotten a fight with Sean Brady without taking this fight. You know, like
Ian Garry, who would you rather fight, Sean Brady or Carlos Prates?
Probably Carlos, but I'm saying even if he wins this, his next fight is Sean Brady. He could have shortcutted this without having to take this opportunity.
Well, maybe he knows something that we don't.
But let me say this: it's why I respect the move so much.
Right.
Like when Bilal got hurt, and they said, "Who's gonna fight this killer in Shavkat Rakhmonov?" Nobody puts their hands up except for Ian Machado Garry, and he steps in. People put their hands up, but it's like on social media, and then they don't ultimately do it. Ian Machado Garry is the one who stepped in there. Carlos Prates, nobody's dying to fight this guy who's not high in the rankings, who's an absolute stone cold killer. Ian Machado Garry puts his hands up again. So I respect him and his gameness. I think it will come back to him. I think he will be rewarded for this. But I do feel like in terms of if you're building your career, it feels like an unnecessary risk, because I do believe he could have been a name for Sean Brady without taking this fight.
I dig the cojones.
No, I just said it makes my respect for him go all the way.
But again, maybe he knows something that we don't. Maybe he knows that he wasn't getting that fight, or maybe he's been told if he wins, he's going to be next, or maybe he's been told if he wins, he'll be the backup fighter for May 10th and then secure his spot. I feel like there's. I need to talk to Ian. I need some more intel here. But I dig it, man. I did not expect it. I did not. Who's the favorite, by the way, in this fight?
I think Ian's got to be.
I don't know if we got odds yet. Yeah, you would think it would be Ian.
Man, people love Carlos.
I will say, Ariel, like
Carlos, he doesn't have any ranked wins. I know he's on fire, but like he does only have 4 wins of the UFC, and they're all by knockout. So like he's a growing star, but he's still the lower ranked fighter in this one and has much less UFC experience.
It's also hard to shake the image of Ian being a round away from beating Shavkat. You know, like that tells me the level that he's at. And so,
all right, here we go. You guys want to guess it?
I'm gonna say Ian minus 125 150.
I'm gonna say. So you're both saying Ian minus 150-ish?
Yeah. 125. I'm going.
I'm saying Carlos minus 173.
Pizzi is the winner. Ian Garry minus 120. Carlos Prates plus 100.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I just say, Ariel, like in terms of you having an optimistic outlook here, and I appreciate that, and I do think, like, I hope that Ian has been given some type of guarantee to push him to the forefront of this title conversation. We have to note that it is a double-edged sword too. To be going into this fight coming off a loss, having never had a loss in your career, to be going in against Prates, a guy with a lot of momentum, to lose that fight. I don't feel like these guys are, like it doesn't always work out that the guy, despite him stepping up and saving you guys in this card, it doesn't exactly mean you're going to be rewarded unless you're victorious on the night. So I do think it's a massive risk. And again, to the point that we're making about his massive balls.
But you know what? And this is sometimes the difference between MMA and boxing. Like I think, and I'm not saying that Ian is doing this to, curry any favor with the fans, but let's be honest, This is how the fans fall in love with you. And let's also be honest, for a minute there, the fans weren't in love with him. And so how could you be an MMA fan and not say, like, you know what? All that shit was dumb. This guy is worth backing. You know what I mean? Like all the stuff where when he was getting hated on was what? Oh, he's a McGregor wannabe? Or, oh, like some shit about his family life that is none of our business. Like there was no real reason for it other than the fact that sometimes people connect and sometimes people don't. How do you not connect with this if you're a fight fan, right? How do you not say, this guy talks the talk and he walks the walk. He kept telling us he's the man. He kept telling us he's the best. He fought Shavkat on 3 weeks notice, and he's fighting Carlos Prates on 3.5 weeks notice. When Prates was preparing for a fight 2 weeks prior, and he was, and God knows where, he had nothing, he had nothing lined up. So I just think this stuff, win or lose, this stuff just helps. And again, he wants to win. He wants to advance all this. He's not just doing it to be beloved. Clearly, he doesn't care. Good on him for that. But I think all of this helps, and that's why I think it's worth it.
I think the people who loved him will still love him. The people who hated him will probably still hate him. But I do think no matter where you fall on that, you must respect him. He demands respect. Moves like this show you who's game in this fight game, and he is game, and he is putting it all on the line when he doesn't need to. As I said, I think he could, have gotten a fight with Sean Brady next without having to take this risk. You can like him, you can not like him. You must respect what he's about in terms of fighting.
What are people saying about June 7th, the main event, Merab Sean 2?
I'm seeing a lot of people unhappy with Sean O'Malley getting a rematch.
Okay, for those who are unhappy, are they, and obviously there's a million people, I'm not asking you to poll everyone, but like, are they offering a plan B? Who is he?
I actually haven't seen much plan Bs, just that it's unwarranted for Sean O'Malley. And I actually agree with you. What is plan B?
Right. Who is he skipping?
Who Sean O'Malley beat.
Right.
Got 50-45 by Merab. I understand that Sean O'Malley lost the fight to Merab just back in September. He hasn't taken a fight since. He is the biggest star in the division, whether you want to believe that or not.
Yeah, there are perks that come with that.
135.
For sure.
I mean, after that, who else would there be? Corey Sandhagen? Umar just got beat by him.
And Corey's fighting. But Corey has a fight May 3rd. He has to get by.
super fight.
Yep.
No, come on.
Look.
You're getting creative with the plan B.
But by the way, go back 2 months, 3 months. Merab didn't want to fight Umar. He said he doesn't deserve it. The guy I want to fight is Sean O'Malley. Like,
fair.
Everything is Sean O'Malley. There's no other alternative at this point.
Look,
I would love to say there's another option. There's not.
If there was a guy out there who had won 10 in a row, who was basically Merab, a year and a half ago, Bilal a year and a half ago or so, then I could say, all right, you have a valid point. There is no guy out there. And the guy that had the winning streak but didn't have the signature win, or wins, I should say, was Umar, and he got the title shot. Who are you skipping over? Who is being wronged here? And so, to GC's point, he's the biggest star in the division. He's one of the top 5 biggest stars in the sport, at least American-born fighters.
Top 10 for sure.
Top 10, fair. He believes till this day that he won that fight. So it wasn't like he, got knocked out in the first round and it was pretty clear that he couldn't hang or whatever. He maintains. I think he believes it when he says it. He said very recently that he was hurt, that he's going to be 70% better. Who knows if he's trolling people by saying this stuff or whatnot. It's the biggest fight that you can make in that division, and it's not far-fetched. It's not like you're saying, oh, the biggest name is ranked 11, and we need... Like, he's the former champ who hasn't fought since, who had a nice run as champion, and yes, sometimes people don't defend the belt once and they get an immediate rematch. Like, there's weird rules for different people, and I would understand if people are upset if someone was getting wronged. Present to me the person who's being wronged by this title fight happening. And to Rick's point, the champion wants to fight. He is not upset about it. He's the one who asked for it last time. In his last defense, in his first defense, he said, let's run it back right away. So, look, I think it's great. I think it's great for this area. This could have been an International Fight Week type of title fight. Kayla versus Juliana could have definitely been a co-main for International Fight Week. It's that big. Remember, I said this in our 2025 preview. This was the fight that I was most looking forward to in the first quarter. It's coming in the first half of the year. I cannot wait for the build to this fight. I hope they do 1 million press conferences, 1 million face-to-faces. I hope we get a ton of content from the two of them because they are magic together. They talk a lot of shit. Their press conference that they had where they were both there fighting different people but going back and forth was magic. We finally find out, can Kayla do it? It's at 135. Juliana has a great opportunity to prove that she is that damn good. And oh, by the way, if you want a little more juice, you want some more stakes, you want some more drama, there's the potential of Amanda Nunes just kind of lingering out there, who has a history with the two of them. Former teammate of Kayla Harrison's, some friction there. Oh, by the way, 1-1 versus Juliana Pena. It has everything. It has everything in a weight class that has had nothing for the last 2 years. It's amazing. I love that fight. I think it's, if you're a fan in this area, in the tri-state area, you have to be thrilled right now because sometimes those early June cards kind of get forgotten about. It all kind of leads to the International Fight Week card. This is a great offering. Early June card, you got to be happy. I love it.
What'd they get last year? They got Islam Poirier last year. That wasn't too bad.
Yeah, they got Paulo Costa versus Sean Strickland. The rest wasn't great.
Is Newark becoming the early June card? This is 2 years in a row now.
I believe it's 3 years in a row.
I think it was 289 in Canada.
But then there was early May, the other one. It was around this time.
What was that, Aljo?
Aljo. Yeah.
And Henry Cejudo.
Henry? Yeah.
288.
We don't really.
I mean, just steel trap.
We don't really think Sean O'Malley thinks he won the first fight, right?
I think
the Sugar State Athletic Commission.
I don't think he's trolling when he says
That's
that.
true.
I will tell you this, and hopefully I'm not breaking the fourth wall here. He did reach out to me. Immediately afterwards and asked me. He said, "Please, if you could do me a favor, can you watch the fight without commentary? And please tell me that I'm crazy for thinking it's a lot closer than people are saying." And I believe. Look, all fighters are somewhat crazy, are somewhat delusional. They do things that none of us can even, us meaning the ones on this show, can dream of doing. And I think you have to be somewhat crazy, somewhat delusional to be a fighter. And so
to support his argument, 2 judges scored at 48-47, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I don't think it's the craziest thing. Do I think he won? Did I score? I told him I scored it for Merab. After watching it, as he asked me to, I did it, and I thought that he won. I don't remember now what rounds, whatever, but I thought he won. I thought he did enough, and it was, I think, 3-2, 4-1, whatever. But it was one of those fights where it was like, all right, I understand what you're saying. I understand you're telling yourself this. Now let's go see. Now you tell us you're healthy. Let's go see.
If
but
30%, then yeah.
But listen, but we talk about the risk that Ian's taking. What about this risk? Merab is showing no signs of slowing down. If you're Sean, you could say to yourself, look, I'm popular. I connect with people. I'm one of those guys who may just be popular with or without the belt, right? Maybe I just go fight some fun fights. I lose to Merab for the second time. I'm in purgatory. I ain't getting a shot at him until he loses.
He'll be at 45 if that happens.
I'm just saying.
Perfect.
You're saying if he loses this fight, he goes up to 145.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't lose.
No-brainer move.
And it's like perfect for the division with Ilya gone now.
Ilya's gone
up there.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.